Hey Taurus, happy February. For this month, I just wanted to lay down some Lenormand cards to get sort of a general feel for the month. Not necessarily what you can expect outright. I don't really like predictive stuff when it goes out to a large group of people. It doesn't feel as though it's authentic or accurate. That stuff is much better reserved for situations that are one-on-one. But maybe just something to focus in on as the month progresses or something to think about. So I'm just going to shuffle these first and then lay down a central card here for the theme. And it may even just be sort of like a path to ensure the best possible month for you. So basically what's showing up right here in the middle is the garden card. The garden card is typically a card of community or being away from the home, being outdoors. Sometimes it implies online networks and things like that too. But basically when you see the lily, the garden, and the storks, not only is this about creating harmony within the networks that you're currently involved in with the lily here, it's also an opportunity to positively shift things, move forward. As you can see, this particular garden card is beautiful. There's flowers sprouting up everywhere. Everything is in order. It's a very harmonious feel that comes off this. So I think this has a lot to do this month with just finding your peace, as noted over here by the lily, and then moving through these networks that you are currently immersed in. It could even imply things like social media, and then looking for ways to positively shift that for you. And then the other part of the story here too is the owls. The owls, well, there's two different birds card in this particular deck. The first one is just these sort of little chatty birds. They're kind of flighty, they're kind of nervous, they're kind of anxious. But the owls card usually is a little bit more of a higher level type of communication. A lot of times it has to do with educating people. So as you can see, the owl over here is flying towards the stork. So this is going to be a lot of inspiring type of communication. Basically, it comes down to sort of like you being yourself and communicating with people in this network in a way that helps you out. With the clover here, that's a lucky card. That's things really going in your favor. It's having a lot of benefit, especially when you see it over here paired with the storks with positive forward movement. There's a chance that things could just sort of fall into place for you this month, or maybe something specific that you've been looking at or wanting to work on is finally starting to manifest for you and turn into exactly what you wanted. And it's creating this sense of peace. I mean, overall, this looks really nice. I'm just going to throw down a few more for the month here. Now, these here are more of like the internal energies. These are the things that you have control on over the month that's involved within this network or this community that you're communicating in. The fox is, well, sometimes the fox is like a detective. He's that one that can sort of just sneak in, get all the information he needs, and then scurry away and never be noticed, or no one will even know he was there. But oftentimes it has to do with certain types of work. Now, if you're working in a field that requires a lot of communication and you're communicating in a peaceful way for your work involved in this community, basically with the woman card here, well, even though that's a woman, we'll just say it's the person card. So if you're watching that, this is you. With the fox, the woman, the maze, and the whip, you might feel a little bit confused as to whether the things that you're doing align exactly with what exactly it is that you want to be doing. You might not necessarily feel at times as though the work that you're putting out there is making the difference that you want it to make. But basically the message that comes across with this is just to continue sticking with it. Because the working person right here, it's thrown him a little bit into a maze as to whether or not this is ever going to manifest here and turn into something positive with the storks. So it's going through a little bit of a maze. It's trying to navigate your way through this community that could be a little bit confusing at times. And you're going through sort of a difficult cycle. Sometimes the whip has to do with, you know, beating yourself up and things like this. But I see this one more as just the round and round and continuing to go through cycles, continuing to wander through this maze. But the benefit of it is, as long as you continue communicating with your work, with the fox, the owls, and then the person, you're communicating with your work, you're staying loyal to it, you're getting everything out there that you need to say. It's ultimately going to achieve a position where with the clover and then the maze here, where you get out of this sort of labyrinth, I guess, a little bit sooner than expected and can keep flying into better days. So I guess when I look at this on the overall is, no matter how frustrated you can potentially feel during the month, if it feels like you're going through the same motions over and over, There is a way out. You just have to keep doing what you're doing, keep communicating within this network. And I think this might actually have something to do with online. So if you do any type of online work or you're involved with social media and things like that, just continue to keep at it. You know, ultimately it's going to result in something that feels lucky for you. You're going to be able to positively move forward, and you're going to be able to venture into better days. Now, it's not without a few challenges too, with the whip, the garden, and the person. You know, it might feel here like, again, like you're going through the motions, specifically with the whip and the garden specifically, and then that attaches back to you as well. And then the work that you're doing inside this community, or even out in public, if you do work like that, it's going to throw you into a maze a little bit. Basically, what both these diagonals just really reinforce the same story. So it could feel like a challenge for you. It could feel like the stuff that you're doing is not really going all, it's not basically doing everything that you wanted to do, but just keep at it, because something good here potentially can happen for you. You are going to be able to fly into better days and achieve that peace and serenity that you desire most. It's just peaceful communication helps you move forward and helps you move forward quickly. So I would avoid arguments. I would avoid unnecessary strife. You know, sometimes if things just trip you or trigger you just a little bit, let them go, let them roll right off of you. Keep doing your thing. Keep communicating the stuff that makes the most sense to you. And ultimately, you'll fly into better days here. You might even feel lucky because of it and be able to achieve all the things that you wanted to do for this month. And lastly, I just want to look at some of the other diagonals here. Really, there's so much more involved in these, especially when it's a one-on-one type situation that gets very, very specific. But it's a nice way to put everything together. Whoops. But basically, we also have the owls, the person, and then the stork. So that's just saying that this continued communication inside this community is going to lead you into better days. And maybe you even put a lot of positivity back into this community. Maybe there's other people over here with the whip adding in negatives. And then the clover, the maze, and the storks. That's saying that you'll be able to make it through this labyrinth or this maze quickly and fly into better days. But then you have the lily, the whip, and the clover, which is basically saying, you know, maybe you feel a little bit beat up because of the way things have gone in the past, but ultimately know that you're going to be able to achieve everything that you want here with the clover card. And then lastly, we have the lily, the fox, and the owls, which just implies that continued communication that you do with work is basically, and as long as it's peaceful and serene and inspirational and happy, and you're the one sort of taking the lead on everything, it's going to ultimately lead you to these better days that you aspire toward most.